Traffic, the most well-known demon in the Philippines. It even had a dishonorable mention in Dan Brown's Inferno as being the gates of hell. From the congestion in EDSA all the way to the locked roads of Alabang, traffic has plagued our country for the longest time. Tourists would often comment on just how bad the traffic really is. In comparison to other countries such as Germany, countries where the highways have no speed limit at all, drivers in the Philippines would be ecstatic to reach 15 km per hour. However, it should be noted that this state of traffic is one that is already being worked upon. We shall take a look at one city in particular, Makati City, and how it attempts to tame the beast that is traffic through its management of public transportation and modernization projects. The public transportation in the country has quite the reputation. The Philippines would not be the country that it is without its most iconic mode of transportation, the jeepney. Alongside the jeepney, buses and tricycles roam the city providing transport to those who avail of the service. The jeepneys have a reputation of being quite the troublemakers on the road. However, no one truly says anything since they have all grown accustomed to the eccentric driving method of the average jeepney driver. In addition to the jeep, buses have provided a constant transportation service to the common people of Manila. Often used for the longer hauls, buses are often used by people who have to travel long distances. For the shorter hauls, on the other hand, the tricycles provide a good service. If the distance is a block or two, the tricycle is the ideal mode of transport. These three methods make up the bulk of public transportation in Makati and will be discussed more later on. Overseeing all public transportation systems and mapping is the MAPSA, the Makati Public Safety Department. They are in charge of most of the traffic management in the city. They take charge of planning routes, stops, destination points, and the such. The head of traffic engineering, Mr. Mon Fernandez, was kind enough to give some of his time to be interviewed. He will further discuss what they do in MAPSA later on. So far, the modernization projects of Makati revolve around the edicts of the national government. They have been focusing on the now rather than what is to come. However, they have had steps towards the Egypt project. Sadly, it did not work well as planned. There were multiple problems with the program. This will be discussed later on. In the current road mapping of Makati, we were told that there are 31 routes for tricycles, 35 routes for jeepneys, and finally, 7 routes for buses. And the number of those vehicles per route is as follows: 1,962 tricycles, 3,978 jeeps, and 1,524 buses. With the number of commuters unknown to them, they are not able to keep track of how many there really are in the city. We did wonder what the LGU would have done in the case of different routes going into different LGU areas, such as buses from Alabang going to Fairview. What would their strategy be? They wanted to make the division in routes clear as to not cause confusion among drivers. This is due to the fact that some drivers initiate fights with others on the grounds that they are stealing their passengers. Mr. Fernandez said that they drew the line clearly so that drivers would stick to their own jurisdiction. Another strategy is the option of generating a P2P, that they would change routes to a different station to lessen the congestion in the roads. Driver recruitment and training are one of the more essential steps in the modernization program. This job would be left in care of private businesses. However, they will hold weekly sessions to train a handful of drivers who will be recruited by said private businesses. Local training is ongoing for their education for the upcoming modernization project. They are all training to prevent the indiscriminate driving that most but not all PUVs do. Examples are not following the unloading and loading points. Although to make sure that these drivers would not forget what they learned in the trainings, there would be a module provided for drivers. In the step of maintaining new routes and forming new paths, there would be dedicated stops for different jeeps and buses all over the city. There are also maps provided to us by the LGU which showcase the different routes and stops of the tricycles, jeeps, and buses. One thing that cannot be overlooked is the accommodation for persons with disability. We asked how they would approach that issue and they said that it would be prioritized in the implementation. He also stated that the indiscrimination on PWD would roughly cost them 45,000 pesos. Only the buses in the city have facilities for the differently able. They would try their best to monitor this as this is something that they want to implement the most in the modernization program. As Makati aims to comply with the modernization program, it takes into account its goals and has gone through the most popularly known route of using electrically powered vehicles. According to Mr. Fernandez of MAPSA, this resulted in the failure of the shift to electrical jeeps as it faced various complications. The lack of disposal methods and no steady supply of competent replacement batteries largely attributed to this. They had explored the use of hybrid models but could not be properly funded because of the gap in expense. Thus, the move to modernize Jeeps by using electric engines are not sustainable enough to do on a wider basis. Instead, they aim to use EU standard diesel engines to lessen the greater environmental effect of the emissions of jeeps and still produce an upgraded service to the public.
Ako si Mon Fernandez, Head ng Traffic Engineering, Public Safety Department, Makati City.
To create a more cohesive and effective data-centric plan, the offices bases their decisions off of the directions of the national government. Mr. Fernandez states that they wish to wait and see what the national government decrees, what a valid track of action would be to push for a better commute experience and help the congestion that has plagued Metro Manila, especially in the Makati area.
Kaya naman pala ng jeep.
Kaya, wag tayo.
Okay, sige po. So, ano po yung last question naman? Wow. Okay, so ano po yung data na ginagamit sa paggawa ng mga plans?
Paggawa namin ng plano.
Opo, saan po nakabase yung data? Sa nag-aaral?
Pag mga ganyan kasi kailangan mag-data gathering ka talaga. Data gathering ka talaga. Halimbawa, tulad sa inyo na yun, may study kayo. Kung thesis na yan, kailangan pupunta pa kayo on the spot, di ba? Interview. Ganon din kami. Hindi kami nagre-rely doon sa kailangan i-validate.
So, marami po. As in, gano'n po katagal like usually yung research naglalast?
Depende kung halimbawa ako nagwa na i-convert ko yung 100 sa one-way traffic scheme. 2 ways yan. I-convert ko ngayon sa one-way. Matagang ang ginagawa ko diyan preliminary Gagawa ako ng traffic advisory. Lalagay ko ng experimental. Experimental lang. At halimbawa, itong valiant, one way ito, experimental visa. Okay. Saka ka lang magiging aware, ay ganito pa lang magiging intent ko.
Okay.
Pero, kita mo, karamihan naman ng ginawa ko lumusot eh. Dahil, halimbawa, 100%, 10% na lang yung position.
Okay. Wise. So, ano po? Like, what data?
Kunin mo muna yung history. Tapos data gathering. Kung sa amin kasi karamihan, million count kami. Bilangin mo. Tapos, yung design ng kalsada, sukatin mo, ano ba may encounter. Sa amin yun sa design naman namin sa proyekto. Kasi kung halimbawa naman nag-design kami para sa new road ng isang PUJs. Halimbawa naglagay kami ng bagong rota mula Pasig to Ayala, halimbawa. Pasig to Ayala. Aaralin namin yon. Ano ba unang sagasaan niya? Ano ba ang mga PUJs na nandiyan na sasagasaan niya? Na kaya namang i-cater na nandito na yung Pasig to Ayala, hindi na dumiretso. Kasi ina-apply niya ng bagong prangkisa eh, Pasig to Ayala. Eh may halimbawa, meron namang Pateros to Ayala. Kung ikaw halimbawa yung magbibigay ng prangkisa, papayag ka ba Pasig to Ayala to Pateros existing na magbibigay ka pa rin ng prangkisa?
Hindi ko alam po rin sa
Kaya nga, ganito yun eh. Ang i-determine mo na lang, magkaroon na lang sila dito ng isang node. Ito yung mode para isang node ulit dito. Mag-meet dito yung pasahero ni Pasig, dalhin niya rito, dadaanan ni Ayala ng Pateros. Isang node. Dahil ito yung mode niya. Makarating siya ngayon ng Ayala. Wala ngayong overlapping. Walang mag-aaway ng mga driver na nagpapaluhan doon.
Okay.
Diba? Karamihan ganun eh. Tingnan mo yung, ewan ko nakakasakay ako ng yung galing Quiapo. Hanggang halimbawa, Bendia. Papunta rito sa South. Ano ba pinag-aawayan nila, di ba, pasahero? Tapos magre-reklamo ang mga driver, hindi sila kumikita. Paano mo naman kikita? Kung usad pagong ka naman. Di ba? Paano ka kikita kung usad lang ng tuwa? Nagmamadali yung nasa likod eh. Ako, lagi pag nag-lecture ako sa driver, mas lagi yung mga PUJs na sinasabi ko sa kanila ito ba? Ano pa? Nangangatwiran kayo, hindi kami kumita ng ganito. Bakit kumita yung kabila? Matulis siya. Ito kasi, naliligo pala yung pasahero, inaantay mo na eh. Diba? Naliligo pala yung pasahero, inaantay mo pa hanggang sa mapuno yung jeep mo. Sa buwisit ng pasahero, nagbababa ka. Kaya hindi naman kasi kayo nagko-commute eh. Pero kung nagko-commute kayo, ma-encounter niyo yan.